Hello, folks. Welcome back. We have another video for you today, obviously. This one is a little bit more controversial, I suppose we could say. I have a lot of work that is unpublished. I mean, I'm not exaggerating, but we're literally into maybe 100 pages of finished, unfinished, need of revision, and sometimes I put it to the back, and sometimes it takes my interest again. And the publication we're going to deal with today is a little bit different because it is the English Illustrated magazine, and it is from 1887. So obviously, we've always been focusing, and we could call, I always kind of talking pre and post folio time dates, and we know the Green Man does spread out between the 1500s, 1600s, and the very, very early 1700s. But the Green Man did live on. It was reproduced in various books, articles, some in France and some in London, like this one here, and these are all recorded in the database as well. But it kind of drew my attention, and I spent some time working on it. And what we're going to see here today is a work unfinished, because it takes a lot of time. It really does, and sometimes I get distracted with work and things like that. So a lot of what you're going to see here is unfinished. It is like a trimmed down kind of version in my mind of what page I started at, or what got my interest and what I went to next. And I've just kind of cleaned it up a little bit, and I'm willing to show this. So obviously 1887, it would suggest that the people that were responsible for some of the works that I've shown previously are in circulation 120, 130 years ago. And if they were in circulation from the 1600s up until like 1887, what's to say they're not in circulation now? It's one of those things, but we'll give it a look, we'll give it a try. If you've any interest or comments on it, again, feel free to post them away or come along to the Discord and post your concerns or suggestions, and we'll take it from there. It is worth mentioning that I actually own this book as well. I own some of the newer Green Men. They're a lot, let's just say, cheaper to get a hold of, because there was something that I really wanted to look at that caught my attention, and I think that's where we'll begin. So the first page we're going to come to, it again, sometimes I kind of struggle a little bit to think what's the best order to tell the story. And in here, it is a collection of stories. And what's important to say is there is a Green Man in this, and I have searched through years and years and years of these catalogues, and this is the only version that has got a Green Man. And split up in between these 800 pages, there is a story called The Secret Inheritance. And The Secret Inheritance is split into, I think it's about 8 parts, and it's at the start of the book, it's at the end of the book, and it's kind of like slotted in between different stories that makes up this magazine. That, to be honest, it's quite a hefty book. I don't know, I think it might have been published in magazine or something like that, and then compiled into like a hardback, which is the version I own. And The Secret Inheritance is actually a story about a secret inheritance, which is I don't know, ironic, I suppose, because in Green Man, the inheritance, the secrets, and it's all about maps, codes, treasure, solving these codes and moving on to the next clue and stuff like this. It's actually quite an interesting read. I don't suggest you go out and buy it or anything like that, but it was just worth mentioning. But the first place I'd like to start is here, and it's quite easy to see why this got my interest, because the first thing you see is we've got a problem. And it just happens to be that we have Sir Philip Sidney has a portion in this book, or a story about the Fairy Queen. And the Fairy Queen, the Shepherd's Calendar, of course, is another Green Man publication. But we have a problem straight away. We are missing the P. Now, this isn't a book from like the 1600s. This is like a London print shop right at the end of the 1800s. This is a professional outfit. What is it, something Macmillan? And it just struck me as absolutely bizarre that something like this could happen. So, errors, I'm on it like a hawk, having a good look. And we'll just go through it. And the first thing I see is 638. It's a bit of a random number, but added together it's 17. And we've been through this before. 17 in an alphabet, if it was to have a numerical value allotted to it, 17 would be R. And underneath there we have 3. If that were to have a value in the alphabet, that would be C. But it's just something that I'll have a little look at, especially with the page numbers. More often than not, that I can't do that with the page numbers, so it's hard to see how strong or anything like that, or an indicator that it would be there. But again, that is what it is. So you can see here we've got a nice Hillip instead of Philip, and we've got a blank letter, obviously. A little thing here. Now the quality of these pages is not so good. Because it's like a 900 page thing, the quality of the download, it's a bit blurry, sore on the eyes with black and white. But we'll give it a try. So we'll go straight to the left hand side, I think it is, and we need to use a bit of interpretation here. So I'll just put it out. You've got pen of Spencer, and then as an acrostic we have SOLT for slot. Now what comes next would be IS, slot is, and to follow that in the kind of shape, it would be pen slot is P. Now a slot, I don't really need to explain this, is basically a pre-arranged position for something. Or we've got a slot in the calendar, or something is slotted for something to fit. It's quite a common thing. I don't really need to explain it, but it kind of gives the opinion that the pen, even though we're using typing here, but something that has to be written, there is a slot for it, and the slot is P. And if we had a P there, we would have Philip. Nice. We'll carry on. Now up here on the right, we have 3 words. But if we take them, the end, the mid, or the end of one word, the whole of one word, and the start of the third word, we get the word hint. And we've got this very large space here, which is common after a full stop in these publications. It's not unusual. But the fact that we've got the word hint makes me think, and it says in the midst. In the midst, it means in about it somewhere. There's a hint in the middle, or there's a hint about it, and we've got this space, and we've got the space where the P should be. This is what these things keep me awake at night, to be honest. And to describe it, it's saying P which attended the, and it's under the space. So we will come back to that kind of phrase, because there's something else we kind of need to explain a little. Here we've got friendship. On the other side of that we have intimate. two separate columns or two separate paragraphs at either side of the page. Let's just zoom in a little bit. And we'll just keep going a little bit. And then we have SIDE for side, spelt backwards. And what we do have here is, let me just get this here. Side, we have MATE for mate. I know this is a bit thingy, but a friendship, a mate, an intimate, a mate, perhaps a male and female mate. And it's saying side. Now, side could possibly mean the other side of the page. But what we have here below it, we have MATE for mate in another acrostic form. Now that would be intimate, and we've got it here again. And as part of the mate, we have an engagement of marriage. Somebody's married, it's your mate, isn't it? So there's something here about coming together. There's something here that it's talking about a friendship coming together, an intimate discourse coming together, the mate acrostic, the mate being part of the word. It's saying side reading backwards. It's possibly talking about mate is read sidewards, running up the side. I think that's what it's getting at. So two things seeming to coming together, and what it would be if we look here, and if I start taking these off, we can kind of get a better look. These two parts, if it comes together, we actually have the word pint. Now a pint is just a unit of measurement, and that measurement could be any kind of liquid, but a friendship coming together for a pint of ale. You know, and but what would it mean? Pint? What exactly? What's the point of it, to be fair? But if you come back up to here, the hint and the P which attended, and we just envisage a P in there, we get the word pint. So this is how, in my mind, maybe I'm absolutely going insane, but there's always this kind of little story that within that short vicinity, it explains itself if you're willing to take that step, have a good look. We've got this friendship, this intimate, this mate. I found that two things have to come together, and there we've got the opposite sides of each other. They come together to make pint. It's telling us here if the P would attend, we put the P in there, and it's a hint in the midst of it, we get pint. And it just so happens that we are looking for the letter P to make Philip. And it's Phil Lip. I don't know, Phil Lip, you could be taking a drink of something. Sometimes you can try to go too far to explain things, but I like to just let it do it itself, basically. So at this stage, I was quite convinced that there was something going on in this book, but sadly the book is massive. But we'll carry on. Now, if we come down the page, we have took letter P. Again, back to this letter P for some reason. And then it's took letter P, raise the letter P. Again, it's just single words, but it's basically saying take P and raise it to where? Top of the page. Where else can we go with it? I guess so. It's just little things like that. But what I've learned going through all this, and this book is slightly different. It seems to have a different touch to what the older books have. You can definitely feel that it's not the same people involved, although it's from the same pedigree, but there's just something there that's different. Now here we have the letter indeed is something more than a letter. It is a P. Yeah, again, it's just more about this letter P stuff. Now, but all it does is allow us to come down the page. And here we have a telestic, which is at the end of the line. And it's saying, for O ye. Now, O ye is an old English term, basically, in a legal... Well, here we go, I can let you see this. I've actually still got it here. A legal or informal cry, O ye's, or O ye, often tripled, which means hear ye. It's a formal cry. You can picture it in the old movies. O ye, O ye, O ye. And they'll be ringing a bell or something like that. Like to hear me, the town crier kind of thing. Or a formal cry, O ye. So what we get is, for O ye, what's next? C-R-Y-E-D. For O ye cried God. Hear me, cried God. Now, what is hear me, God shouting, hear me? It's a bit, I don't know how to kind of explain that, but if we just follow the page down, we come to less P, and we're talking about Protestants. Now, obviously, this things have moved on from the 1600s, but there's still quite a thing in the UK, even to this day, about Protestants and Catholics, and which one follows the true teachings, I suppose. So it might be something to do with that. For O ye cried God. Or is it him crying God, the person who wrote this? Or is it God cried? For hear me, God cried. It's like a statement the person who had this is saying. For O ye, or hear me, cried God. So, take of that what you will. And then underneath this, we've basically got done. I think that's just, if you just follow it down, it's just like the next kind of a telestic telling us that I think we've kind of finished that row. But it takes us down to a level where we can shoot over to the left hand side now. And we get another telestic with green, Green. And what type of green? It's an evergreen. Now, an evergreen is something in the UK, it would be like even in the winter, it doesn't lose its leaf or its colour, especially like holly and things like that. You know, that kind of very dark green looking plants. I could probably name a few, but I think you've got the idea with an evergreen tree or an evergreen plant. And it's saying a design, an evergreen design. And underneath here we've got to make. So again, this is, you might think it's just all picked bits, but once you've got this all lined up and you're working through it, I just tried to break it down to make the story easier to digest. Now we've got a G here to make the groves, keeping in mind groves, green, evergreen groves. It all follows the same tone because, well, it follows the same tone, but evergreen is not part of the story that it's telling because green's a telestic, you know. So to say like groves, it's just part of the story because they're talking about evergreen. They're not talking about anything evergreen. They're not even talking about anything green. It's just these words are just slotted in nicely. But groves is actually G, roves. Now roves means to travel. To rove, which could mean like to travel around without a clear purpose. Roving around, another common English expression. So if that G was to rove, that G was to like rove away, and it's telling us to make something, what we have in the middle with the G gone is the word Kether, if the G was to be gone. And Kether is like the English of the Hebrew for crown. It's actually one of the 10, how can I put this, points on the Kabbalistic tree of life. At the top, the Kether, the crown. So we can kind of think, what is it getting at here? And we've got resemblance here, and a boar. Obviously, when you think boar, we're obviously going to think like Francis Bacon, the boar, and something drawn out. So, an evergreen design, Kether, an evergreen crown design. It's a resemblance of an evergreen crown, but there's a boar drawn out of it. Okay, that's a bit very specific, but in this book there is many tailpieces and headpieces of artistic nature. But there is one that actually fits this bill. So if we come to here, these are all, I'm not going to say exact reproductions, but this book is giving off the kind of like Renaissance vibe to it. And at the top of this picture, I'm not going to go into the work that's getting done on this, but it's brought us together. And that previous page was about a mate two things coming together, and it just so happens to above it's saying it's brought us together. But for me, who's looked at a lot of these carvings, there's something that sticks out straight away. And when you look at the amount of green men and things I have, this here is so uncommon. It doesn't have to be exactly symmetrical. You know, sometimes you get different features, different designs. You see the curves here, the curls here. They all form this same type structure. But I have never seen that out of, I don't know, I think we've got 800 examples of the green men. But looking through absolute tens of thousands of books, I have not seen something. I might have seen something on the left that is not the same as the right. Like here, you've got this kind of leaf, but here it's a different type. Yeah, sure. But something to be drawn blatantly like that strikes me as strange. So when you start looking at this drawn a bit closer, I'll zoom in for us here. This lady is wearing an evergreen crown. You can kind of make out the winter leaves, if you will, of it. But if you look, we've got a double ring here, double ring, double ring, double, double. It's like a double donut, if you will, or see it there, 2, 2, and then this one for some reason does not, and the one to the left it has. This is something again that I've never noticed before in all of these things. Maybe I've just not been looking so close, but I don't buy that. These are the things that kind of jump out to me. So we've got this woman who has got something drawn out, and if you take the context of boar, I'm not talking about an animal, a boar. Back in the day, a boar was a hole. When you would bore something out, what is left in the middle of it is the bore. And that is what is basically kind of removed. And that kind of is a way of saying that, not a ring, but the bore's missing from it. It's so strange. And if it's 2 rings it's missing, where are the 2 rings? You know, these are the kind of questions that I ask myself. And here on page 25, we have our green man, who just so happens to have perhaps the 2 rings that are missing, you know, with his evergreen crown. So there's probably a lot going on in this book that it's going to take such a long time to go through it all. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to go straight to one of the pages that I would always kind of go to, and that's page 106. 106. A Rosicrucian is obviously the age of Father Christian Rosenkreutz at his time of his death. And this is where we're going to focus a little bit more of our time. And again, it's the story, A Secret Inheritance. So we'll go through this and we'll have an idea. Now, right at the top, the first thing is to note. It's the first thing it says. And it's talking here about German, talking about French, different languages. He didn't understand it. And if we come right down to the bottom, sorry, just to highlight that, may as well, page 106. We have a telestic of nota, N-O-T-A. Now, nota is Latin for take note. We see it many times in many books. Some of the carvings as well, especially with Daniel Mogling. It's nota. I mean, there's something of importance to take note. And there we have importance there, right across from it. Nota from the Latin. Now, just like before, I am going to try to explain something here. T, cut. I'll get rid of nota. T, cut, as in the letter T is to be cut. And it says T, cut, on, and it's lane. If we insert a T into this, we get the word Latin. Simple thing, T cut, it goes to, T cut to lane. Put a T in there, we get the word Latin to explain nota. And it's not just that, because we have nota at Deus. Notice God. Deus is the Latin for God. And we've just had cry God. And here we come here. We've got the Latin for God again. So it's nota space T, which I think that's just a space because there's a comma there. Nota Deus. Take note of God. A very Rosicrucian thing. And that takes us up to right here where we get the word Rosie. And this is where we kind of begin to work our way around the page, because above Rosie we've got up. And then from Rosie up we have R-U-S-T, the word rust. Now, we don't know what rust or its importance yet, but we will get to that. Anyway, but we'll carry on. Now at the bottom here we have I am, take note, Deus, take note, God. And at the top of this we have that I am. Now, before I go on to explain this, it's kind of difficult because it has to be explained in an order, but for that I am to be relevant, we need to kind of talk about it first before we fill in the gaps, because I am, that I am, is our Old Testament saying, I think maybe from Exodus, I think it is, where God is basically asked his name by Moses, I think, and the response is a lot more long-winded probably, but I am that I am, being the name of God or the name of the Spirit or something along those lines. And just to be sure that what we're talking about here, we have singing hymns to the Creator. And the person that would kind of sing hymns to the Creator in the Old Testament, we would have a rabbi. So this is me filling in these kind of gaps, and we will come back round and fill in this space here, but we kind of need to do it in an order. So it's take note of God. I am that I am. They're singing hymns to the Creator. They're just letting us know that we're on the right track by saying it's a rabbi that might sing these hymns. And the next thing we're going to look at with Rosie, we have cross up here in the corner. So if we put a line through that to Rosie, and we come up to the top to explain these things, we have crossed the stream. And when you cross a stream, you would cause a wake. W-A-K-E. Like if a boat or whatever, or if you try to wade across a stream or a river, you'll cause this wake in front of you as you push through that water. So there's always going to be something there to help explain or push you through that page to make you understand that it's not just, you're not just taking words. There's always something there to let you know that there's a kind of word game or word adventure taking place. So underneath here, or across the stream, we have your ankle, but it's you ran. So we cross the stream, it's saying you ran, and here we have D-A-S-H as a acrostic of dash to run, and it also says here, there it is, and there's the dash. Now there's dashes in this book in other places, like here's one here, there's one there, but this is the only dash where it's actually broken into more than one. You can actually see there's no breaks, but in this one you've got like a break in the ink. Whether that's deliberate or not, I don't know. I would need to go and check multiple copies to see if it's the same. I think it sorry I think it's just saying dash, there it is, accomplished. It's letting you know that that meaning of that acrostic is true. It's not just a random acrostic that's appeared. So we'll add that line in there. So we crossed the stream, we caused a wake, it says you ran, we ran past dash, and we come down to here. And we hit S-O-F-T, soft. The end of one word, the whole word of the middle word, and the start of the third word. And above it, it says, don't be fearful that you might lean too hard. So you lean soft. But it also saying, don't be fearful that you might T-R-Y. You might try to lean soft. So again, either I am losing my mind or it's on the page. I don't have an explanation for it. It's just there. I just follow what the words say. I look for the errors. I look for the acrostics. I look for the telestics and what is the book saying. So we've basically got, I'll just make this up. Soft is actually of the. So we've got Rosie, cross at the top left of the Rosie cross. But we've got a little bit more, because it's saying here, I am made of iron, subdued beauty. Now, beauty would mean that it's obviously something visual, and something subdued means to be overcome. So we have, I am made of iron, and my beauty or my visual representation has been subdued. And wouldn't you know that we actually got the answer to this at the start. I'm made of iron. We come back down to Rosie, and it's R-U-S-T for rust. Again, I get so much fun playing with these games when things like that happen. And again, on this course, we are going to do something else, because as we come through here, we hit this word apple, and if we take that word apple and we come right down to here, back to where I said that we were missing something, it is seed. In the middle of the apple you have a core, and in that core we have seeds. So it was basically we cross the river, awake, we run, it was dash. We've got apple to seed. We have made of iron, rust. This is what brings you round this triangle, and the triangle, which is a 3, 4, 5 triangle, meaning 37, 53 degrees and 90, it is I am, or of the Rosy Cross. And we go through a couple of capital letters here, and it's basically I am a physician, doctor. Now, one of the, I think it's in the confession, I think it's at 37 or 53 rules that the Rosy Cross Brethren must live to, and one of them is they must treat the sick. It is one of their, I don't want to say laws or rules, there's another word they use for it, but they must heal the sick for free. So I think, again, it's just the fact that it goes through those two capital letters. It makes you think, I am, and we just heard that I am that I am, and then you go, I am a doctor. it all kind of just ties together if you let yourself go a little bit and follow these things to the end. In small little bits, it's so easy to get confused or mixed up, but yeah, if you allow yourself just to spend more time on things, eventually they all seem to explain each other in some kind of ordered fashion. Now, what I will say is, there is another part to this. If you come up to the right, there is another part here, and I'll explain this. We have got ROSY for Rosy, the Rosy Order, the Order of the Rosy Cross, and beside it it says that leaning to the right. Obviously the R is leaning to the right. Now, what I'll do is, if I highlight this just to show you, we can make another 3, 4, 5 triangle that runs up here and runs to this point, which would say, and I, Rosy Cross, and I. And underneath this we have shorten. Now I think what that's meaning is, if it just didn't have the space to add in this Rosy Cross order. So it would be Rosy Cross, the Rosy Order. It's just telling you that shorten, the distance is shortened, this should be at the top. Again, the interpretation could be off. It could be off, or there's supposed to be 2, 3, 4, 5 triangles there. Rosy Cross and I, or of the Rosy Cross, of the Rosy Order. But here it says, you may throw all your weight on that side. Now, it's leaning to the right, you may throw all your weight on that side. And if we go to the other side of the page, we have STAF, staff. And a staff is a walking stick, basically allowing you to take the weight off the side that you're walking. So, so it's explaining that the R is leaning to the right, and to throw all your weight onto one side, and when you go and look at the other side, it tells you it's a staff. I think it's genius, to be honest. Now, what we've got is something else here. that makes this kind of part here. So you may throw all your weight on that side. And what I'll do, I'll get rid of this. It's easy to see. And we've got N-I-C-E. So if I just put a line through that, it spells nice. And I don't normally go into this, but this angle here is exactly 106 degrees. I normally stick to the angles of the heptagon and the 3, 4, 5, but it just seems so precise. And the fact that it tells it's leaning to the right, we've got this line leaning to the right off centre, and I measure the angle and it's 106. But if we follow this nice, we come down and it hits the capital letter D, and it is do not answer me in speech. And there, that do not is actually backwards nod. And it's not just inventing things, because there we have NOD. So what I like to think has happened here is we've discovered the Rosy Cross. He's told us that he's the Rosy Cross. He said nice, and he brings us to the do not answer, but it becomes nod first, as a nice and a gentlemanly nod in recognition that you have discovered it, and he's telling you do not answer me in speech. In other words, to answer, you do the same. Now, I hope you enjoyed that. It's been 40 minutes of me just talking non-stop. But again, it's all the same rules. Nothing changes. There's probably so much in this book that is still waiting to be discovered. And if this is the case, are the Rosy Cross alive today? Are they somewhere even now? Who knows? But I'm going to keep looking. Thanks for watching. It's been a pleasure.